All right, another edition Business Over a Brew. Nick Dar here with you. Pleased to be joined by Mike Weller, first ever third time guest on the show. I
Oh,
think.
wow.
So,
Am I?
You are.
I did. So we did one
We
in
did
Rosewood,
it. Wanted, yeah,
and then one at Old Bakery,
right?
and then now right here.
Yeah,
Studio 1A.
that's Studio 1A, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
Studio
fun.
Z we call it.
Oh, Studio
How about
Z.
that? How you
Yeah,
like that?
yeah,
So,
I do.
But I wanted to have you on again because when I decided to kind of relaunch the show, bring it back in a little bit different fashion, I thought, okay, we're going to drink coffee. Who do I know that could help me on the coffee side of things? And I immediately thought of you because a lot of people know you as a cigar guy, but you've also got the Table 36 coffee brand too.
So you're just trying to get free coffee.
Basically, that's what I thought. How can I not buy coffee?
Yeah.
No, I got free beer for several years out of it, and then I thought, how am I going to get free coffee?
You're such a user, man. I tell you.
Connector.
Oh, connector. Yeah.
That's what I put on the screen for your scroll.
What's that?
Connector Mike Weller.
I don't. That's
you like that?
No, it sounds like a cable guy.
But you are, and it's funny. I called you, and we had this idea like Table 36 was going to be the sponsor of it. You said, "Why don't you make your own coffee?" I did. So that's what we've got sitting here because you hooked me up with Mina's coffee and Craig down there. So
yeah, well, what a cool story.
Yeah,
I know he's got an episode here with you. Craig's fantastic. The Mina's family's fantastic. Well, not Mina's family, but everybody from Mina's is fantastic. So,
right.
I've turned several people onto them, and everybody's just been super happy with it. I mean, their dedication, their work ethic is
right.
Top notch. So, I mean, he went as far as making you a beautiful label.
He did.
Right. So, I think that you should put that on the website, sell it, ship it. So.
We may do that. Why? Who can't use another revenue source? Huh?
Right, I guess. Well, and the thing is, too, it's good coffee because we went down together, sampled it.
We did,
and
that was a whole fun process too. Just super cool. Smelling it, and I'm like, I've never drank anything but the regular crappy stuff, so to speak.
Yeah. So it was really neat to taste the different regions.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So I ended up not knowing, where it was from. It's a blind test, I guess you would call it. And then I picked something from Rwanda.
Right. I thought that was in a movie.
Could have been. Yeah.
We'll stay on track.
No, we probably won't, but
what's that? Stay on track.
Stay on track. Right. Yeah. So we got these nice little AP cigar cups that we're drinking out of. How about that? I don't know if you can see those on the screen, but so we're just promotional product up, really. I got my Growth Association shirt on.
I don't.
So
I'm not wearing it. I brought it instead of worn.
So you're off today, I guess.
Yeah.
Never off.
Never off. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's really almost 6-7 days a week.
One of the things we hadn't talked about on the show with the cameras rolling in the past, I think the last time you were in, we didn't end up shooting one. We just talked.
Right.
And, but you were telling me kind of just your entrepreneurial background and kind of, I don't know if it started in the pizza business, but you were definitely in the pizza business. Definitely. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that.
That was terrible.
Okay.
This is like
next topic.
This is like retirement, really. And I guess it's all about a state of mind, right? So when you're young and naive, for sure, right? So rather naive in business, naive in just life in general. Either way, I was both. And so I was, I guess, taken advantage of because I was young, hungry, and I really hate reading contracts. So I bought
just signed up, man.
Right.
So I
bought a franchise.
I like pizza.
I actually wasn't even that big of a fan of pizza back then. But I did really well managing stores. And so that got recognized. And then, people come to you, almost like loan sharks, basically. But people come to you and they're like, hey, we'll finance a franchise. Obviously know how to run a store.
Right.
So next thing you know, I moved 900 miles away from everything I've ever known and open a pizza place. And I'm doing really well. We had a great opening. And then, you get recognized again. And they're like, well, hey, since you're so good at this, you've proven yourself here in these last 9 months.
Really a long track record that you had.
I guess it's like you got like a year before. And then, so now you're, but they said there's 5 of them in Louisiana that are going under, and they're like, we'll finance you buying all those. I said, well, I'm an idiot, so sure. That makes sense. So I have one store in New Mexico, then I buy 5 in Louisiana, and then I start turning them around.
Right.
And then they're like, well, you're really good at turning around bad stores. We got 6 more in Ohio. So I go, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll take those too. So by the time I was 21, there was 12 stores in my name.
Man, at 21,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I literally from then and before I, got a job with a paycheck, we always worked hard.
Right.
But now I'm really working hard. And then at the end of it, like I had, apartments in these 3 places. And, so then you start getting all these expenses, and then you're looking at your food costs and your P&Ls on all these things. So before I was 21, I was probably literally getting so sick over P&Ls that I couldn't contain it. Like it was, you have to buy food to sell, and then you can't buy too much because then it goes bad. Right. Then you also have
one of the hardest things in the food business is just ordering the right amount. I would think.
I'm very blessed with what I sell now, right? But
stays good a little longer.
Right. Absolutely. So then you start to pay your people to do it all.
Right.
So you
and
have
manage them.
And you have to have those 2 things.
Right.
You have to have payroll and you have to have food cost. And then by the time it's all said and done with rent, advertising, your absorbent or your astronomical franchise fees,
right.
And then you got to pay the guy who loaned you the money.
Right.
They want it back.
It wasn't a grant.
No,
it was a loan.
Right. Yeah. Right. So they want their money back. It's weird. This whole thing was real. So while all my buddies went to college, and I was going to a whole different type of university, man. And it was just, it was probably the most scared I've ever been, and where I probably should have just shut down and came home. Really, I should have just tucked my tail and ran. But instead, I'm again, I always tell everybody I'm not the smartest guy in the world, right? But I was too rather smart or too dumb to stop.
Right.
I just kept going because I wanted to see what would happen at the end.
Yeah.
And it's well, if I have 12 now, will I end up with 50? Or will I end up with 0?
And do I want that?
And do I want that?
Right.
And then but managing a store is one thing. Managing 5 stores is a different thing.
Sure.
Managing 6 stores across 2, basically 2 time zones, and then getting the 3rd market in Toledo. Holy cow.
Right.
You're literally all over and it's so on different time zones. I'm, different. Hell, the accents were different.
Right.
Everything was different.
Sure.
And so it took what you thought you knew. And at 18, 19, we're all cocky, right? And I'm like, oh, I can do this. I run a store. And then, I was okay at that. And then I looked back and I was like, oh, I screwed up that store. When I have 5, 6 of them. And I'm like, oh, now I can go back and make that store better.
Right.
And so over and over and over again, I was always learning what I was doing wrong when I thought I was doing it right.
It's funny, though, you mentioned at 9 months, they grab you and say, you're good at this.
Right.
I think that speaks to how difficult it can be when you find somebody that shows some promise to do it. It's that's why you got called out at 9 months, because it's not easy to do. It's a hard commodity to find a person that can successfully run a business.
Right. I think it's when you grow up poor and they're like, hey, we're going to pay you. And I'm like, oh, I'll do real good for you. And then over and over and over again.
Right.
Because, I don't want to be poor. I want, my lights to stay on and stuff. So there was that real fear, especially that young, of not having the money, and then that's why I was getting so sick, was I didn't know, so now fast forward 20 years, if I knew half of, what I know now, I'd have been like, just trust the process, it's going to work out.
Right.
But back then everything was in the world.
Because now I've gotten to know you a little bit, and I wouldn't say that you don't care about money, but I would say you don't seem to worry about it.
Because I know that, so Sunday last week, we had a not record though. It wasn't a 0 day, but
not a great day.
It wasn't a good day retail. Right. So retail selling cigars, it wasn't what it has been this whole year.
Right.
So it was I noticed it, so because I look at numbers, even if I'm not there. And I looked at it and I went, that's okay. We had a good 4th of July. We were open on the 4th.
Right.
We had actually had probably the best Thursday ever.
Right.
On the 4th of July.
You've just been through it enough to know there's good days, there's bad days. Some days people aren't going to come in. It's not like you can really pick up the phone and start cold calling sell cigars.
But if I saw that, in my first business adventure or my second business adventure or my third business, whatever it was, and I saw such a low day, it's panic mode, right? or it could be scorched earth mode. It could be all these things. But now it's like, it'll be all right.
And, as we kind of relaunch the show, not that we're like a serious show or anything, it's not like season 3 or anything like that, but
Sort of.
maybe kind
Right.
of. That's kind of what I want it to be about, though, is just a community for entrepreneurs to come to and get some education about, how to effectively run a business. But part of that education is I want to hear the scars too, because you can, you read Good to Great or any business books or whatever. And I don't know, it's easy to just outside looking in to say, gosh, why are they doing it so well? And I suck.
So if you're in any sales business, if you're competitive at all, you're always feeling behind.
Right.
So, and I still feel that way. I still feel, at my age, I should be here, here, and here. And then eventually you go, according to who?
Right.
It's like, who cares?
Right.
There's
been some very successful young entrepreneurs. There's been some people in the second half of their life that have been great.
But right now, like if you're getting started right now, or if you're a couple years in right now, and you see online your age group that is dominating, because that's what they want you to see.
Sure. Especially in the social media world that we live in. It's like nobody posts on social media that, man, my kid brought home a horrible report card this semester.
It's always a highlight reel.
Right. And it's the good stuff only.
So when you come to an interview, like when we come here to talk about our business on Wednesday mornings or whatever, right?
Right.
We're not going to say, well, sales have been real poopy, so if you guys could come save our butts, that'd be great.
Right. No, you're not. You're going to say things are great.
Yeah, you have to admit this confidence so people have buyers' confidence in you, right? Well, the truth is like sometimes it's like, man, I'd love to have $10 to go get a roll of quarters for the cash register. Sometimes it's like that. We're really afraid to be vulnerable about it, though. That's the hardest thing to be, is vulnerable, because then what happens if any animal in the jungle is vulnerable? They die. Right. So if you express any vulnerability, then you start to lose support. And that's a real thing. So like if I'm having, a bad time, you lose support.
Right.
I'm just not one of the guys who post on social medias that if we don't have sales, then we're not I'm going to post, I'm going to take a risk, and I'm going to buy something new to, sell a new cigar, new this and new that, whatever.
Maybe a vehicle.
So, well, right. I got a car and a motorcycle for sale.
Right.
That's only because I like to, that's actually where most of my personal income comes from. The store just recycles to the store.
Mm-hmm.
I love when people are like, oh man, you're doing great. And I'm like, yeah, because you see a bunch of cigars for sale. That's all my money sitting there.
Right.
In cases, that is $80,000 worth, of cases.
Yeah.
So it's money. And so I don't, like, everything that comes in goes right back out, right into product, into bills, and it's
right.
Because I'm smiling, I'm doing great. Yeah, what else am I going to do?
Sure, right.
You want me to really think about my true profit and loss statement?
Well, I just think it's an overall misconception about, business owner, you must be rich.
Right. Well, and it really irritates me that way too, because it's like, because I can hold my head up high, I can run a business, and I can smile, and I can still go have a good time.
Right.
Doesn't
mean there's not a lot of crap going on at the store,
but everybody's going to have it, right? You can work at 9 to 5 and go and smile every day at your job and just literally be miserable. I mean, it's the same kind of thing,
right?
You have to go in, you sell cigars. Our thing is to provide an experience, right? So we're doing business over a brew. I wanted to elevate that experience with our coffee, and offered to make it, bring it up for when you have people coming in for the day,
right?
But then it was like, well, what would elevate it more is if I take you down to see the process.
And it totally did.
Right. I mean, so now you have a more appreciation of coffee in general. And then part of my network, like that, after all these years, the people that are good stay, and the people that aren't, they fall off.
Right.
So, and I'm on social media a lot. We do a lot of advertising on social media, and we don't necessarily advertise what cigar, but we advertise the experiences that we do. We're at the boat races. We're here, we're doing whatever we can do to elevate whatever experience.
Right.
So, coming here, I brought coffee, I brought these, I brought the cups, I brought the whole experience. If you had a smoke eater, we'd be having a cigar right now.
Right. Yeah.
So, but none of this is profit. I mean, it's pennies and dollars and pennies and dollars. And the thing about anybody that starts a business, it's like, I'm going to be rich in 5 years or 10 or whatever. You're really not if you're truly trying to provide something to the community.
Yeah. And I like to think about in terms of this may or may not be a good strategy. I like to think worst case scenario. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? I mean,
right.
You go out of business. I mean, that's probably the worst thing that could happen, right?
And
every business eventually will.
Like, nothing's forever.
None of us are going to be around forever.
Nothing's forever. So, but the thing is, like, let's say the world ends with my world ends, not the world ends. But whatever happens, they say absolutely no cigar sales in Illinois at all, which with our tax rate, we're pretty close to that. So, sure. It's
you never know what the state of Illinois is going to do. They might cancel them tomorrow.
36% tax due the very next month. I mean, it's very serious tax. That's why I try to sell a lot of coffee, because that's not tobacco.
Right.
So,
here's your bag of coffee and your complimentary cigar.
Right. Well, unfortunately, it's based on what comes into the state, not what I can sell out the door. But if the world were to come to an end, look how much more knowledge I have now, 8 years after starting this cigar shop, than I did then.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy now is, like, the products don't really matter. It's how the customers are treated. It's the experience they get when they come in.
Right.
It's the, hey, how was your golf game today?
Yeah.
Like, how'd you know I played? Well, I saw your car when I was driving by, or whatever.
Right.
It's the whole thing. It's like, so that's that skill set now is transferable anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at different businesses and I'm like, man, I could go sell that, or whatever, it's
right.
Because once you get in and once you get this far deep, right. So I feel like I'm fairly deep. I have, buildings that cost a bunch of money and leak a bunch of water. And I have, a business that, looks like it's forever growing, and it is, because I'm not taking anything out of it.
Right.
And, and then it's like, but man, if I could just go sell like a product to somebody and get this paycheck that's mine, like all mine, that,
right.
So I've been on my own since 2011 this time, right? So 2011, I quit a corporate job. I made a whole bunch of money. I moved to Ridge Street. So I was preparing to be with less income,
right?
Because I didn't know how. I had enough business knowledge that I might fail a few more times, and I started something that actually went pretty well. And then I sold that company. I started the pawn shop before I sold it. And then the pawn shop ran its course until all my pawn customers got jobs, and the whole pawn industry nationwide kind of took a big dip.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, well, and it hurts. It hurts to close those things. You
started it. Feels like failure a little.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when we opened AP in Alton, the original one was still open, and it went for about a year.
Right.
And the day I was scraping the stickers off last May, 2 Mays ago, last May, I guess it was last early May, man, it hurt.
Yeah.
Even though the store cost me money, but it still hurt, because that's where that started. That's where the brand started.
Right.
So, all these little failures just make you appreciate what's happening right now.
Right.
So, and I don't really, they're failures, but they're also, if you pull a lesson out of them, they're really not.
Yeah.
So
what can we do as a community to elevate the small business community in your mind?
Man, it's I don't know if there's a short answer to that.
Probably the combination of a lot of different small things.
There's
not one big magic bullet. Probably
there kind of is. Be a good person.
Yeah.
Like seriously, be a good human being.
Yeah.
Like actually care about your neighbor.
Right.
I think a lot of that's lost because of the stresses of running a business.
Yeah.
So I water the flowers across the street, right? I don't have running water to the outside of my building. So I have to go over to Morrison's, get theirs. And I offered to pay them. And, they haven't asked for money yet. But I told them, if your water bill goes up significantly, I'll cover it, And so it's that type of community. Yeah. But it's still, they're so stressed over their P&Ls, and what they're doing.
Right. Yeah.
What's your first answer? Like, hey, I'd like to do something, and it's going to cost you money. No, thanks.
Yeah, pass.
No, thanks. I mean, who
advertising? I don't think so. That's going to cost money.
Well, sure, because what's my guarantee, right?
And there isn't one.
There isn't one. So now I'm going to say, hey, I'd like to go water those flowers across the street that I have to pick the trash up out of.
Right.
But there's
really the guarantee from advertising standpoint is I can pretty well guarantee that if you don't do something, you're not going to make it.
Right. But how do you push that negative.
Yeah, you try not to.
Realism,
right? Yeah,
that's a realistic thing.
yeah.
You know, I advertise on social media. I'm blessed with a location and a product that no one else is really
And a
moving.
fabulous website.
So, and a very expensive website.
apcigar.co, check it out.
Right. So, but but not everybody's so like my mom's business is over here, but her number one customer drives from Missouri.
Yeah.
Number one being he attends the most classes.
That's wild.
He drives here more times and
probably goes past a couple.
Yeah.
Because the experience is better.
Right.
In his.
Yeah. She created this thing. Her vision came to a certain reality. I'm sure it's not perfect, but neither am I. So, but
you're her most perfect creation.
Oh, sure. No, sure. But, I guess it depends on, if it's time to pay rent or not.
Right. Yeah.
So, but it's like, so she kind of, we bounce off each other, about just creating something special and unique. So the cigar shop's really just a cigar shop. What's different about us is we don't have televisions. It's real small. It's not this over hyped thing with all this, so much going on. It's almost like stepping back in time.
Yeah.
And it's a time that I would actually prefer.
Yeah, I think I was born a few decades too early.
Probably.
Maybe. So,
yeah. So, because I want, the internet service down there or phone service down there is terrible. And, don't sue me, Spectrum, but they suck too. And, but it's, so it's like people try to get on their phones and we have, free Wi-Fi,
right.
Then they just put it down and they talk.
Yeah.
There was a
novel concept in this day and age.
There was 8 guys in there talking, and they would talk about, what they did in the war, what they did here, what they are doing now. And it's a
kind of like the barber shop of yesteryear.
Yeah. Except for, you're smoking cigars instead of, choking on hair. So, but, it's crazy that we went back in time with our amenities and we're as busy as we are versus offering every channel available or all these other distractions.
Yeah.
Nobody's really even talking about the cigars too much, except for they go, hey, this is a really great cigar or this new one's really good. Our customers sell just as many products as we do. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Really? I mean, that is just, it's exactly how you'd like it to work.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Right. Like all these years of trying to figure out how to run a business, and there's been a lot, from 19 years old to now, mid 40s. And, it's, and it's still like, and once I think I know what's going on, I'm still learning today.
Right.
So it's, I don't know, it's beautiful and stressful. And, it's like, man, sometimes I really just wish I got a paycheck I got to keep.
Yeah. And, I've done that. You've done that. And that also has its drawbacks. I mean,
yeah. Listening to someone or,
I don't know that I could go back to it now.
I think I could if I was in the right environment, but
maybe the right size paycheck.
Yeah. Well, there's that as well. But, it's like, there's also got to be a product or a solution, if you're selling something, it's got to resolve an issue.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing that people, you want to open up a bar in a bar district. What are you supplying? That's what's missing in that district. And then what can you fill that niche? Can you provide something that no one else does?
Right.
Max serves food, I think later than anybody else. My motorcycle broke down last weekend. 2 guys brought me into town. I took them to dinner at 11 something at night,
which is, that's
by the time we got into town,
right.
And so I fed these guys. They'd never been to Max. I take them down. I ordered for them.
Right.
like
here's what you get.
Yeah.
Right,
I'm like, here, this is my favorite stuff. And then I just ordered for them.
Right.
I mean, they were super nice and great people,
Yeah.
But we are consistent. Max is consistent. There's bars that are consistently open, consistently offering good, the same thing. Doesn't have to be an amazing product if it's always available and consistent.
Right.
It's just that's their niche, is they are consistent.
I think shifting gears a little bit, one of the biggest problems that I think you see, and I've heard you mention it, is I don't think it's not necessarily laziness on the part of the business owner. It's the fact that they've seen business owners that are 10, 15, 25 years in that are not working as hard at it because they don't have to anymore. They've already climbed that mountain. And it is like it's like getting a train going. Once you get it going, then the momentum carries itself. You don't have to push it as hard.
Right.
But that's not how it is in the first 3, 5, 7, until you get there.
Right.
You're going to have to push harder and work harder than any job you've ever had.
Yeah. If we talked about how I would not want to order food. I would hate to have a business where I'm selling food. Right. Just because that's a whole new balance that, I mean, you got to be a scholar to understand, like, this food goes until here and, whatever, it's like, it's just a whole nother level of stress, So, and obviously you're going to have more employees. I have me, one full-time guy, Josh, and then we got a couple part-time guys to fill in, that's pretty simple, it's
right.
That's pretty manageable, pretty simple, and pretty low stress.
Right.
I look at, Max, Bluff City, some of these places have just tons of employees,
huge staffs,
and staff you don't even see. There's people back there doing dishes, and that's the backbone of the whole thing. Your server's great, she brings you your food, but like everybody that got
it's got to be prepared properly. The dishes got to be. I mean,
man, it's like, man, these folks, the amount of stress they must have, So that's why, like, at this point where I'm at, I am taking it, in stride. I mean, I am enjoying this ride.
Yeah.
This wave is kind of beautiful right now, and I've been through enough garbage to understand. Man, when we came to downtown and our sales started picking up, I was like, man, something bad's going to happen, because it was going good.
Right.
What a crappy state of mind to be in.
Yeah, right.
Everything's going good. Look around.
Something bad's about to happen. Right.
It's like, that's where your insurance guy cashes in. He's like, oh, you need coverage?
Yes, I do.
I need everything. But the thing is like, it didn't stop being good. And then it's like, okay, well then let's ride this wave.
Right.
And so this last year and a half has been a complete, like, just change of my mind. Like, my mindsets went from, well, if things are going good, something bad's about to happen. To me, to the business, to whatever.
Right.
Something's going to happen.
Right.
And man, I'm worrying about that. I'm worrying about what ifs now.
Right.
Holy crap. I have all this other stuff to actually worry about. I started to worry about what ifs.
Yeah.
That doesn't make a lick of sense.
Right. I mean, there's a fine line between being prepared, but not overly anxious.
I was just worried, like something, like it's the unknown that was going to come and tear all this apart.
Right. Yeah.
Because it was going good. I'm like, holy crap, I've been waiting for years for it to get good. Now it is. Now I think it's going to go bad.
Yeah.
Or stop.
Right.
And it's not, obviously you can't just do it overnight, but it is definitely a thing where you go, okay, things are fine. So how do we improve on fine? How do we go from fine to good? How do we scale this to the next level? Yep. And so once I started thinking in that realm, the what ifs and the impending doom and the dark clouds, they started to kind of fade away a little bit. So, like, obviously you want to make sure all your assets are covered, but
sure.
That it was almost unbearable panic. Like, it was like, I need to have lots of cocktails. We'd have whiskey in this if I was in that,
right, in that mode.
Yeah, right, So life's definitely a little bit different when I started to just trust that for the last 8 years of building this thing, that maybe it's okay. The train's rolling.
Right.
Like you said, it's like, we'll still have to push it when there's a big hill. We'll have to throw more coal in it,
sure,
to get up the mountaintop. But right now it's okay. It's like, and I got out of panic mode because I wasn't growing. I was just like worried something was going to happen.
Right.
I'm like, all right, no, let's just trust that what we're building is correct, and then provide more.
Well, hopefully this show can be a small part of that for other entrepreneurs, and help them get to that level.
I know, I guarantee, and you're one as well. It's like, we know what comes in, we know what goes out, and we know how close we are.
Right.
Every single month.
Yeah,
we know how close we are.
Yeah.
And you're not alone. We're all, I don't care what you're driving. I don't, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Hell, I'm riding a one wheel around to save gas. I mean, whatever, am I really saving gas? No, I just need to check out for a minute. Yeah. So that's what it does.
Right.
What's CJ roller skates, whatever don't give up on the things that distract you from work.
Right.
That's a big. Do you golf?
I do. So,
yeah,
so I keep doing that at least once a week.
Yeah,
so.
no, it's
right.
It's healthy. you know, don't drop your hobbies, because that's gonna put you in that mode I was in, where I just basically sat in a dark room wondering what the hell's gonna happen. You know?
Sometimes the best way to get out of it or figure out what's next is to totally get away from it for a couple hours.
Holy cow.
Whatever.
And because you come back refreshed, you know. If you come back and it's worse, then you didn't prepare good enough to leave.
Right.
So, I mean, there's that whole thing.
Sure.
You know, you really got to prepare to take that time off, which is harder work. Like, it's easier not to take a vacation. It's easier not to take a day off. But if you don't, then you're not going to have the growth and the reward that you deserve.
Right.
So,
well, you're going to be a semi-regular on the show. I don't know if you knew that or not, but we did talk about that. Right. So, and appreciate the sponsorship with the Table 36. I don't know, where it's going to go, but I do know we'll have good coffee on the show.
Number one on all platforms, iTunes, Spotify.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What else do you listen to podcasts?
I'm mostly an iTunes person, but I guess Amazon's got one. Right. And, we've got a little app that we just put it out there and it goes to all of them. So
Pandora's got podcasts too.
I think so. Spotify, all the good. You said Spotify.
Yeah.
So, and of course, our show will be on advantagenews.com, and we'll play it on the radio sometimes too. So there'll be plenty of places to watch and listen to it. Right. So, and
I'm sure as we go, it would be fun is like
do a roundtable someday.
Yeah, I was going to say we should get like maybe like somebody who's just opening.
Yeah.
Right. And then somebody who's been open. And then somebody who's just opening, like whoever it is, if they're a year in, a week in, whatever. But let's get them in and let's talk about what they're scared of now.
Right.
What they're trying to do right now.
It's a good idea.
And then check in 6 months, and then check in 6 months after that, and then watch how their fears have changed to what they're scared of now in the beginning. Yeah, is silly.
Well, doing the show once a day instead of once a week is going to change a little bit about how we do things, because we're going to have more repeat guests on. And I think that's good, because like this conversation, a lot different than ones we've had in the past. Because we're not talking about AP Cigar.
We're not promoting the cigar. Everybody knows our shop's where it's at.
Yeah.
And
it's got a sign, it says Cigar.
Yeah. Look at that marketing. Does it matter whose name
Genius.
it is? All right. I just,
here's what we have.
And what's funny is like everybody, a lot of people, when they want to start a business, they're like, I got this name. And then, it's going to be Smoochy something, and you're like,
okay.
Well, what the hell?
I don't know how to break this to you.
What's a Smoochy, bro?
Right.
Like, and then you go,
it's my great aunt.
Right. Right. And then you go in and they sell like, I don't know, turquoise freaking jewelry.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, I don't get the correlation. So my advertising is pretty basic, right?
It used to be back in the day when I started in advertising, like everything was AAA something, like because you had to, you want to be first in the phone book.
That's right.
So
it's funny. I passed an Aaron's truck, so as my last corporate job was working for Aaron's rental. Yeah. And I go, who's Aaron?
It just starts with AA.
hey, name another AA name.
That's right. Yeah.
There's not.
Right.
And so there was
that mattered then.
Yeah, it did, because you looked in the phone book.
Right.
AP was kind of that way,
right?
Not like there's a bunch of cigar shops here, and really so just for everybody who wants to know, AP means literally nothing but airline pawn. So unfortunately that closed. So now,
that was the foundation.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was kind of the money that was opening up cigars,
right?
And so it's that's what it was always supposed to be in this location. So when people go, hey, what's AP? I'm like, oh, it's the pawn shop that's in Rosewood Heights, airline pawn. That was the whole reasoning of naming it AP. So now it's like Alton's Pride. I don't know, whatever. It's Alton something. So if you spell fresh with a P, I guess it could be Alton's Fresh Cigars. I don't know.
We'll come up with something.
Yeah,
like
right.
It. Alton Fresh with a P.
Yeah, it's always perfect cigars.
Oh, that's good. Now we're talking.
Yeah, no, it's dumb. But it's like don't the name shouldn't be what makes you want to open a business. The passion for the resolution that you're solving. That is why you open.
I was going to say, you kind of really nailed it with the sign, truthfully, because we don't like to expend a lot of calories figuring out what it is you do.
Right.
And that's as good as it gets. It's like cigars.
Yeah.
That's what we got.
I had that rolling trailer. Do you remember seeing that?
I do. Yeah.
Had a big cigar on the top, and I thought, man, that's a no brainer, right? No one's ever, some lady came up to me at an event and asked if I was selling the hot dogs. I looked up at that big cigar on the roof and I went, fair enough.
I guess,
fair enough.
If you want to
It looks like a hot dog, I guess. So, I had to make sure I put in,
cigar.
Let's, let's just keep
really
it.
do have to make it simple for people.
And for myself, man, I'm not a complicated guy.
Right.
I had to make sure I went in the right building. I don't want to walk into Morrison's, next thing I know, I'm drunk by noon because I went to the wrong business.
I thought I was getting a cigar.
Right.
Drinking Irish whiskey.
Yeah. Now I'm here all day. So, I'd be excited to come on because, what we're trying to do is things like, we want people to come to downtown Alton. We need, whether if they're from Godfrey or if they're from Iowa, I want them to come down here.
Right.
So it's like, and we have to elevate that. We have to have more things open, obviously, because there's so many locked doors, closed doors.
Right.
That, we don't have a lot to offer.
Well, wouldn't it be great if our community, our area was just known for, hey, if you're opening a small business, this is the place to do it.
Right.
Because they're supportive and you've got this, that, and the other. And
it's like, I try to do, what I can, like I almost always go to a coffee house. I'm always, available. I had somebody walk in the store last night, was asking, seemed like he was just getting started, his mind getting started on focusing on how to open and why. And I told him the same thing, man. It's like, you have to have a resolution to someone's problem.
Yep.
So,
right.
Then you have to be passionate about actually solving that problem with your resolution.
Right.
So,
not just putting money in the register.
Right. It's like, I want to make money. Cool. Go get a job.
Right. That's true.
Literally, if you want to make money, don't open your own business.
Right.
It's
because you probably won't if that's your sole motivation.
Right. Absolutely. And so but I was telling him, I go, solve a problem. And he goes, what problems do cigars solve? And I was like, good
That's
call,
a good
right?
question.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I was kind of impressed. So I was like, okay, man. All right. Fair enough.
Right.
And I go, what a better way to spend an hour talking to your buddies than over a cigar.
Right.
What the cigar does is elevate whatever experience you're doing. You go and sit there on the tractor and mow grass for an hour, holding on with two hands to the steering wheel, or do you want to?
Cigar makes it a little better.
Everything,
Right.
And I go, so what we did was the problem we solve is, that this event does this, but with cigars, it's a little bit nicer.
Right.
There's such a beautiful community in a cigar shop.
Yeah.
That was the other problem that we solved. If you don't want to go to a bar and drink all day and you enjoy cigars and you want to go hang out somewhere, but don't want to spend hundreds of dollars, you go to a cigar shop.
Mm-hmm.
You sit around, hang out, talk. Our cigar customers golf now together. They never knew each other.
Right.
From then meeting at cigar shop. So now they do things together.
That's got to be pretty cool just to kind of sit back and watch that sometime.
It is. Yeah. We went on a float trip a couple weekends ago with a cigar customer.
Awesome.
And there was 12 of us. It started with a couple.
Right.
And then, there's 8, 12 of, I can't remember how many, but a bunch, and it's kind of hard. I think it's hard to smoke cigars on the water, like when because I like to jump in.
Sure.
So,
right.
So
water cigars.
Right, yeah. They don't burn so well underwater, but, it's like what we solved was a gathering spot, it's over a cigar, but we have community, we have connections, we have, guys come in like, hey, my garage door's not working. You got a guy. And like, I got a guy,
right.
He smokes cigars too.
Yeah.
And there's a trust with it all. It's insane. And
it's a community. I mean,
we are building something that is old school.
Right.
And then, just like now you get reviews. The guy's like, well, was he any good at fixing your garage door? He was awesome. That's the review. And you take that man's word.
Right.
Because you know him now.
Yeah.
You had to talk to him instead of watching him play on his phone or stare at a TV.
Yeah. Right.
I hate glowing boxes. I don't.
Well, appreciate you being on the show.
This
I've taken up enough of your time. We're at 40 minutes. That's a long episode.
I got 4 minutes to get all the way down the hill.
Okay.
And open the store.
All right. Well, you better do that. So, hey, appreciate you being a part of it, and thanks for the sponsorship. And we'll talk again real soon.
Keep going.
Thanks, man.
Buddy.